Local news with Airpark Canterbury. Find cheaper airport parking and we'll beat it by 10%. airparkcanterbury.co.nz.
Christchurch Mayor Phil Major is with me. Hi Phil, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks, Chris. Yourself?
Good, thank you. Good to see you. So Council discussed its draft transport plan. Now, this attracted a mixed response. Let me start with developer Richard Pebbles, who was saying, and I quote, "I've asked numerous times who's leading this. Is it the council? Is it the CEO, the mayor? Where's it coming from? Why are we doing this?" He says it's a fundamental question because we've already got a plan and the old one is apparently delivering vibrancy and accessibility. So why are we wasting millions of dollars on a new one? That was his question. So what's the answer?
I feel his pain. He is right. There is a 30-year plan in place, which is not quite, roughly halfway through. So I certainly understand his pain, and we've got to look at that. We had deputations yesterday, of which he was one, and it comes back to the council on the 19th of March and for ratification, and we will deal with any amendments that come up on the day, and I'm sure there's going to be one or two.
Is this a legally binding request that the council has to make, or is this something that transport staff did on their own volition?
I haven't, to be honest, I haven't really got to the bottom of that. We all voted, apart from one, to put it out there for consultation, and of course we're now getting the consultation back, or the deputations back, and now we've got to digest all of those and see what we do with that going forward. But I do feel his pain.
Pebbles claims the draft plan is part of a wider push by council transport staff to impose an anti-car policy without proper oversight. Has he got a point?
I can see Harry gets that point of view, but we'll work our way through it together and see what we can come up with. But as I say, I do feel what he's saying in some respects.
That said, Mr. Mayor, I mean, there is some irony in Richard's criticism, isn't there, considering that Riverside Market, part of his own development, replaced a car park and is now one of the most successful developments in New Zealand?
Absolutely, and with the road being changed out the front to people to sit there, the road's been taken away and it's now a pedestrian zone for people to sit down and enjoy Riverside. Riverside's one of the best things that we've got in the city by a long shot.
Totally agree, and we're very fortunate to have Richard and his team in this city. You didn't support the upgrades around the Metro Sports facility. Why did you vote against them, Phil?
Contrary to popular belief, I do actually support the cycleway down there because it is important. It's a missing link, so to speak, because it's busy on both sides. But I am against the cost of it. When we found out that we'd been given a 2.5 metre wide strip, the whole length of the Metro Sports building, I thought, right, this is great. We can make the road a bit wider. We can do a double cycleway or some bi-directional cycleway, and maybe leave all the car parks on the eastern side of the road. We may be able to leave all that there. But I tried late last year, staff came along and I tried to see if they were interested in, or the council was interested, the working group was interested in looking at it, but I didn't have the numbers to do it, so it came through. But the bit that still disappoints me is, wham, we got another $1.2 million thrown on top of it, so it's now $5 million, and that's we haven't got a bottomless pit of money, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah, but having said that, when you make those types of statements, I think, but then again, the stadium, how many more seats do we need for that? You know, that seems to be a bottomless pit of money.
So sorry again, what's the stadium, sorry?
My point being is that when, people moan about the cycleways and the costs and we haven't got a bottomless pit of money, I always bring people back, like your good self, to the comments about, well, we seem to have a bottomless pit of money for a stadium.
Yeah, we did have 32,000 people just in a sort of a poll that was on Facebook who said, yes, no, we're more than happy with it. And with the stadium coming out of the ground, everyone's got a spring in their step, and I think it's going to be the greatest thing for the city. But I'd just like to see us think outside the box a little bit at some of these cycleways, because I've looked at others up in the North Island and in Nelson and those areas. They made one hell of a lot cheaper, and we don't need to be so revved up about them and make them so flash.
Revved up about them. That's sort of a pun, isn't it, in that way? Councillor Melanie Coker said you weren't showing leadership in your response to reject that proposal. How do you respond to that criticism, Phil?
she should try sitting where I sit sometimes. There's a lot going on, and I think if we showed leadership in not wasting ratepayers' money on things that don't need money wasting on. That's the way I look at it.
Last week, Councillor Jana Johansson's amendment calling for the government to remove chlorine from Christchurch's water supply, that passed. Now, of course, this is not really part of the actual submission because that's not what the submission, I realise that the bill doesn't really talk to that. However, I think many people would agree that it's important to at least remind the government of Christchurch's passion for this, but not all councillors supported this. Were you surprised by the split, and what are your views on the outcome?
I think it doesn't do any harm to put it in there because we put the submission in. Te Mata Arawai, the water regulator, they make the rules, right? So we've got to abide by the rules. But I feel that if we do it alone, go alone with a in-house system with the water, there's a very, very tiny little glimmer of hope that I might be able to work, or council will be able to work with the water regulator, and if there's any possibility to lower the amount of chlorine a whisker more, or maybe do away with it on some pumping stations, we've got more of a chance of doing that than if we go with a council-controlled organisation, which will have a heap of directors and a chair and an added layer of bureaucracy.
Christchurch City Mayor Phil Major, thanks so much for your time. Good to see you.
Good on you, man. See you around.